Many people claim that they want to have an honest conversation about race. More specifically, they want to discuss racism. But when people use the word racism, many times they aren't using the dictionary's definition of the word. This makes the so-called honest conversation quite a bit difficult to have. Moreover, many of the people who claim that they want to have this honest discussion aren't being so honest. Because as soon as someone doesn't see things the way they see them, they shut down the conversation. Now, how honest is that? Eventually, we should ask why there's been such a shift in how some of us define the word racism. Who stands to benefit from this sort of moving of the goalposts? Is this elevating our victim status or helping us become successful contributors to society? How honest are we willing to be with ourselves, let alone with others? Will we let others speak their minds honestly? Will we consider other perspectives? Will we be willing to consider culture? According to many people on the left, the definition of racism has changed. Their definition, though not found in any dictionary, has something to do with power plus prejudice plus race, and I don't know. I've searched high and low from dictionary to dictionary, and I can't find anything close to that definition anywhere. It's not to be found in the Merriam-Webster's. It's not found in the Cambridge, not in the American Heritage, not in the Collins. It's not in the Macmillan. It's not in the Oxford. It's not on dictionary.com. It isn't found on Google Dictionary. There is no recorded definition that has the word power included. So we won't be using that definition in this video. And you shouldn't either. It's not the definition and it never was. Now, of all the dictionaries that I did find, they all have similar definitions. They basically all share the same definition, but all use different wording. Now, I prefer to use the Merriam-Webster's version of the definition, since Merriam-Webster seems to be the gold standard of dictionaries these days. By the official definition in the Merriam-Webster's, anyone of any race can be racist. That definition reads as follows. Racism, a belief that race is the primary determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. So, all that one needs to do to be considered a racist by definition is to believe that their race is superior to other races or a particular race. This point is very important to remember throughout the duration of this video, as the theme of the video revolves around the dictionary version of the word. So what would make leftists want to change the definition of the word racism? For whites on the left, I think that a large part of that has to do with them not wanting to be labeled as racist themselves. See, whites on the left can deal with labels like white privilege or accusations of them having implicit bias, because those labels are either out of their control on a subconscious level and or they don't stand to harm them much career-wise or politically. And in my opinion, that's part of the reason why whites on the left will accept themselves being called privileged. See, at this point, all one has to do is apologize or simply show that they recognize their privilege. But real racism, real racist, real racism isn't simply about someone being privileged. You can be completely underprivileged and still be a racist. As well, you can be biased and not be racist. But the damage done to anyone who is caught displaying real, genuine racism can be life-altering. It can destroy careers and the possibility of living a peaceful life in the future. This is much different from whites on the left who don't stand to lose anything by calling themselves privileged. Those individuals calling themselves privileged actually stand to gain a bit. By virtue signaling and acknowledging their privilege, they gain some amount of status as someone who is quote-unquote woke. A woke lefty acknowledges his or her privilege often and loudly. A racist has to keep quiet for fear of losing his or her livelihood. There's obviously a considerable difference. So by changing the definition of the word racist or racism, it gives whites on the left cover. Because if we really examine the definition of the word racism, we would see that it isn't very favorable towards leftists. Let's look closely at the Webster's definition. What stands out there? What stands out is the fact that one group sees itself as superior over another. By definition, this is what racism means. It's when people from one race believe that their race is superior to others. This gives us the yardstick from which we can use to measure racism. Now we have to ask what policies or what ideas that are being pushed by the left, the media, or politicians show that one group thinks they are superior to another group. In the past, it has been Republicans who've been maligned and labeled as racist. But the reason for this is because they have not advocated for entitlement programs. They haven't advocated for government-controlled schools. They've advocated for school choice. Now, if we're measuring with the same racism ruler that we talked about earlier, by definition, none of that is racist. Thomas Sowell once said, when people get used to preferential treatment, equal treatment seems like discrimination. And we see this when we see Republicans advocate to not have the government push racial preferences, entitlements, and the like. But let's look at some liberal policies and what liberals push through the media. First, let's look at the voter ID laws. According to Democrats, Republicans wanting to require that ID be shown before voting is racist. But let's think about that for a minute. What this assumes is that blacks are inferior in their ability to get a voter ID.
Because they're less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs you do over the internet. Does that also make it difficult for black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works.
A lot of people have smartphones, but you might not have data.
For most of the communities, they don't really know what is out there just because they're not aware or they're not informed.
So essentially what they're saying is that blacks are incapable of getting IDs, but white people are capable of getting them. That seems quite racist to me. It's basically saying that one group has a superior ability to go to the DMV and get an ID, and the other is inferior. By definition, that's racist! How about affirmative action? While well-intended to begin with, affirmative action has become something that has been shown to hurt many blacks. The left says that to deny blacks affirmative action plans for school and work is racist. Now, affirmative action has been a highly debated topic for many years, but how many people have thought about the fact that arguing for affirmative action seems a little bit demeaning? In many instances, it assumes that blacks cannot compete at the same levels as whites. Therefore, it assumes that blacks are inferior to whites. It doesn't allow us to make it solely on merit alone, and it allows people to think we were able to get into a school although we had inferior scores or inferior abilities. By definition, that seems to be a bit racist. It's often said by blacks and whites on the left that black students need more black teachers. But what's the problem with that idea? It assumes that blacks can't learn from any teachers besides black teachers. This is a classic case of treating people as inferiors. When blacks say this, you have to assume that they have an inferiority complex. When whites say it, you have to believe that they believe that they're superior in some way because they have the ability to learn in classrooms with any kind of teachers. Asians have been going to school for years and dominating with little to no Asian teachers in sight. Whites who go to HBCUs or historically black colleges and universities are able to graduate sometimes at the top of the class and often with honors. So the idea that blacks need black teachers in order to do well sounds a lot like racism. It sounds a lot like people, black and white, think that blacks are inferior in their ability to learn from teachers who aren't black. So you see there's sort of a soft bigotry of low expectations going on. We see this clearly when we see Democrats like Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders campaigning and discussing blacks as if all of us came from low-income communities.
When you're white, you don't know what it's like to be living in a ghetto. You don't know what it's like to be poor. You don't know what it's like to be hassled when you walk down the street or you get dragged out of a car.
Just like in the school system where teachers teach to the kids who are doing the worst in the class, politicians are making arguments about the black community based on people who are doing the worst in society. Never mind the fact that most blacks don't live in poverty.
We are called to care for and cherish each other. It's not easy. It is not easy. But that is our mission.
Meanwhile, conservatives have consistently advocated for no preferential treatment.
There are people, particularly many conservatives, who believe that once race is used in the admissions equation, that those who benefit from that are disadvantaging others. So they argue that even though affirmative action is meant to increase diversity, that some people, particularly whites and Asian students, are harmed in this process.
This means equal treatment for everyone, not special treatment for any one particular race. But for people who's had special treatment for so long, equal treatment begins to feel like racism. Or, just like Thomas Sowell said, when people get used to preferential treatment, equal treatment seems like discrimination. I'm Chi Brown, reminding you to always consider culture. Be sure to subscribe, share, like, and comment. And if you like these videos, check out my Patreon account to help fund me doing more videos on a broader range of topics. And I'm out. No more Yaza Baza.